While we were in Germany last year, I got an invitation from my friend Daniel Bremiker to visit Abus, which has been owned by his family for 5 generations. In this video, we'll give a brief history of the company and show you the evolution of their lock-making process, which started in Germany in 1924. They're widely recognized for offering some of the highest quality locks in the bike space, but they service pretty much all sectors of the security space in both home and commercial applications. And now they even offer bike helmets that are produced in their own factory in Italy. They offer locks and other security solutions in all sorts of varieties, from alarms, deadbolts, cameras, padlocks, chains, and more. But for this video, we'll be focused primarily on the bike market, and that's what this factory specializes in. It's one of 5 factories located in Germany, and each one having their own specialty, this one being mobile security, R&D, and tool making. For those of you that follow this channel, you've probably noticed that Abus is featured on most of the bikes that we offer, and it's our source for aftermarket locks for our e-bikes. Since our primary markets are in places like New York and LA, we can't skimp on security, and we've been very happy with the quality of their solutions. Their key-to-like locks are favorites of ours, allowing you to order several locks with the same key. It really simplifies things on e-bikes, considering the fact that you could have upwards of 4+ keys depending on your configuration. Paring that down to 1 is a nice option. We'll get into their locks and production in a bit, but before we do, I wanted to give just a little bit of a history on the company. The name Abus is an acronym for August Bremiker and Son. August started the business and it's been passed down for many generations, with the latest generation still active in the management of the company. It's really inspiring to see such a large privately owned company maintain family ownership and leadership. As I look to the future of my own business, it's a real dream of mine to leave such a legacy behind, especially when I think about the competition they faced in the early days. Not too different than the e-bike market today. Axel Rosler, who leads their sales and marketing for the international mobile security market, was their tour guide, and he was very knowledgeable about the history and operations of the company, both past and present. He explained how Abus originally began in the basement of August's family home, where he created one of the first padlocks. From there, they expanded to many different markets, and their start in the bike market began with offering some of the first frame locks, and they were even offering new locks as early as the 1970s. Axel explained how they began in a region where there were many manufacturers of padlocks and other items made from steel. Much of that had to do with the proximity to the steel mill. In the early days, there were about 40 companies offering padlocks from that region, and now there are 4. I learned throughout my time working with them, and even more so during my visit, that this is due to a few principles which seem to be fundamental to all businesses which are able to sustain for this period of time. They have a serious commitment to quality, and they don't compromise on their principles. And from what I can see, they invest in their people. I met one employee who has been with the company for 45 years. He happened to be celebrating his 60th birthday while we were there.
His 60th birthday today. 45 years he is with Abus. So he started his tooling education here, I guess, yeah?
It's also clear to me that they think long term, something not so common in companies these days. This is a bit easier to do when a company is privately owned. I see a lot of similarities in their company and Bosch in this way. I think their private ownership allows them to make a lot of smart, long-term investments, like building all their tools and machines in-house.
Yeah, let's go to see the tool makers over here.
They're even building and servicing their own automated tools in-house.
The tool makers, like Simon, they are maintaining the tools, they are designing the tools and making new tools. Yeah, you don't want to try to lift that one up. Yeah.
No, I don't want to try to lift that thing. Axel explained that they do this so they know they can manage the quality and they can better manage the supply chain. This became a godsend during the supply challenges caused by COVID. Many companies were shut down due to breaks in their chain, but Abus had a lot more control over their production and they had a lot less interruptions. Abus offers many different security options for bikes, including chains, U-locks, frame locks, and folding locks, which is a category they effectively invented. They now also offer alarms and Bluetooth-enabled locks, which is quite cool. I imagine with some of these technology-enabled locks, we might even see them more integrated into e-bikes in the future, and perhaps even connecting with their electronic systems. As Axel toured us around the company, we actually got to see one of our key-to-like locks being produced.
So right here we have 4 Propel in New York, a custom order of 2 U-locks matching an e-bike.
This was kind of a rare opportunity. I've always imagined in my mind what that looks like, so it was cool to see all that process. First they get the order. From there, they actually build the key and the lock cylinder. Once they have that, then they can move it into the lock production. They kind of put it all together. So we'll kind of follow that along in the process kind of loosely as we explore the factory and check out some of the different pieces of it. What really impressed me the most is just how much that they do in-house. As I mentioned before, they make all their own tools, all their own testing equipment. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. And they're even doing a lot of robotic stuff right now, which is pretty impressive as well. Most of our lock orders don't go through this special process, but when a key-to-like order comes through, it's got to go through the factory. That's the only way that they're able to pair the lock cylinder or lock code to a new lock. But it's a really nice option, and it's something that only Abus offers. For this order, we had a couple of the Granite X Plus U-locks. These are some of the highest security locks that Abus offers for bikes. Now I should note that nothing is completely fail-safe, but these locks do a really good job at defeating some of the more common scenarios that a thief might go through. We actually got to check out some of those tests later to prove this, and we'll get into that in a bit. But it was really great to see step by step the build. Depending on the lock, they get the steel, they cut it, they bend it, and then they harden it. Before the steel is hardened, it's easier for them to bend it, cut it, shape it, do different things with it. But then once they harden it, it becomes very difficult, and that's what makes the lock more secure. They actually harden the outside, but not the inside, and that allows the lock to be a little bit more flexible. That makes it more difficult for the lock to be defeated in some of the more common scenarios. One of them is actually using a car jack to actually bend or twist the lock. Since the lock is flexible, it makes it very difficult to defeat it in that way. Axel also explained the quality of the steel is a really big deal as well. Because they're so close to the supply chain, they're able to manage that.
This is a cut piece of the Granite X Plus U-lock shackle. And here with this machine we are testing if the hardening of the steel is done to the level we want it, which is always very hard at the outside and more flexible at the inside.
A lot of companies might use more recycled steel, and they might not have as much control over the chemistry or the makeup, the blend of what they put into it to make it more pliable or more resistant to cutting or different things like that. It makes it also possible for them to make a lock a little bit lighter, which is really important for a bicyclist. You might have a competing lock which might be a lot heavier, might have a similar resistance to cutting or different mechanisms to defeat the lock. One of the things that's unique about their more premium U-locks is that they lock on both sides. And so even if you broke one side of the lock, you actually can't open it. And that's something that you don't always find in most U-locks out there. They also showed a bit more of their different tools that they use and some of the different processes that they use outside of some of the stamping and cutting. They also use CNC. It's essentially an automated control of machining tools by computer. You can take a block of material and then it's going to cut it based on these specifications. But in some instances, there's other things that make sense depending on the application. They also have die casting. Die casting is a metal casting process where they force molten metal into a high pressure molded cavity, and they actually create the cavity as well. So this is the mold for this. One of the ways they do this is they cut things with a brass wire, electricity running through a brass wire which cuts through steel. The CNC also offers a lot of benefits in that it produces little to no waste. There's really practically no defects, greater accuracy, and a real reduction in energy consumption. And that was one of the things that was kind of interesting too, to see how the products going in and out, how they're able to recycle a lot of things. So for example, a lot of the products that are stamped, they have additional material that's left at the end, and then they're able to push it back to the steel manufacturer. Maybe they're going to use in their lock or they're going to use in other applications. One thing I did learn is that it's not always so ideal to use recycled material for the lock or the shackle, but it could be used for other things. Just really impressed by all the tools and machines and now robots that Abus actually builds and maintains themselves. We got to see a little bit more of the key making and lock cylinder Probably makes sense actually to explain a little bit more of the makeup of a lock. I mean, there's a couple different varieties, but the heart of it comes down to like the actual lock cylinder, the key, and then you have a locking mechanism. You can lock to a variety of different things, whether it's a folding lock, a U-lock, a frame lock, or a chain lock. Now we even have electronic versions that can do essentially the same thing. It just basically removes the key from the equation. One thing I learned is that in their more secure locks like the X Plus, there's actually over 1 million varieties of key combinations, because I guess it's 6 digits. So each one of those has kind of exponentially more varieties are available to them. So they start with a key blank. They cut it based on the code. With that code, they actually can reproduce that key in the future as well. The key cutting process, most of which is done in a fully automated fashion where they actually scan the barcode. Orders are programmed into the machines to make the custom cylinders for each lock. The keys are cut with the machines and organized accordingly. And it's interesting to see like what people are still kind of part of the process of putting these things together. And really, it seems like they got it pretty well optimized. From here, we ventured into checking out some of the quality control and testing and some of the different ways that they do that. For example, they have like a salt chamber.
Yeah, so now I open this up and you will see right now we are doing sole testing on our brake disc lock for the motorbike.
24 hours inside of the salt chamber simulates 1 year conditions that might be by the ocean or sea, like by salt water. So they usually test things for about 7 years of oceanside conditions. So on top of this quality control department, each department of the building process also has its own quality checkpoint tests. So most of the tests along the line are for kind of precision, making sure everything's going to line up and go together perfectly. But there's other tests which are done once the whole lock is fully assembled. They also have a lab dedicated specifically to trying to defeat a lock as a thief might.
We have hammer blow attacks using chisels, using crowbars, using steel saws, using bolt cutters, car jacks. So this is the manual testing, also applying ice spray to the lock in order to try to make it brittle.
They're able to build and test their locks to specifically prevent this sort of attack. In many European countries, they have specific requirements set by the insurance companies around how well it should perform up to any of these sort of given attacks. So you can see those sort of ratings on many of the locks. Now in the US, we don't really have the same system per se, so I usually try to refer to the European ones. From there, we got to check out the team that actually assembles the locks and packages them. One thing they did note is that they've really been working hard to reduce their packaging, especially reduce the plastic in their packaging. And from there, everything kind of gets packed up and shipped off. I mean, they distribute their stuff throughout the world. Usually for our keto-like stuff, it takes a little while to get to us due to shipping, but it was really cool to see how quickly they're able to turn around one of those orders. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it. It was really cool checking out the factory and getting to spend time with Axel and meet some of the different staff there, see the tools that they're using, and get a better understanding of these products that I've really grown pretty fond of over the years. I hope that we get a chance to make more of these videos in the future. I think there's a lot more that I'd like to explore and learn and show you guys, you know, these experiences I'm having. But if you guys got any questions, if you have experience with ABIS, if you want to share in the comments below, please feel free. And if you're interested in getting an ABIS lock or a keto-like lock, you can check out our website, propelbikes.com. We actually built a special tool specifically for ordering keto-like locks to make that process a lot simpler. So check it out. Well, thanks again for watching and see you next time.